Here we are again for another shortwave radio show. Hello everybody. Looking at the stream here. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. So we are once again live. Just turn this here. Put this in a corner. Take this other spot here. And welcome everyone. Checking this once again. Okay, everything's all right. So hey everyone, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave Radio Show. This is the Saturday edition of the show. We are on Saturdays every 2 weeks, and we are going to have a lot of fun and basically talk about radio. We'll talk about digital modes a little bit. We've got some questions that I've got so this week and the past week or two. So this is pretty cool, and we are going to have a lot of fun, I would guess. So if I look a little tired, because I am, I went a little overboard here yesterday on the party with friends. So we kind of, you know, I was supposed to come home around, you know, like 10 p.m. or something. And finally came home at 2:30 in the morning, which is a little later than I expected. So today I'm drinking water because I am just a little bit hungover from last night. So cheers for the water. Hello everybody, welcome aboard. And of course this show is every 2 weeks on the Saturday. It's at 2000 hours UTC. Of course we have also our Friday show. That's every Fridays, 2000 hours UTC. And it's fun to have everyone on board. I was decoding some PSK31 here. Lots of interesting little signals here coming in. So it was a lot of fun to go through this. So it'll be one of the digital modes we're going to talk about today a little bit. And of course we're going to have some radio fun. If you have questions, of course, there's a chat room. So if you have a Gmail account, you can get into the chat room and just have a lot of fun. Hey there, Mellow Yellow. Nice to have you here from Indiana. Pretty cool. Ronald Zucala. Hello there from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Nice to have you here. Luis Arevallo. Nice to have you on board. David Arden. Nice to have you on board. Water, yep, flavored water. There's a little bit of fruit juice and the rest is water. That's going to be tonight. Kenneth Herring, nice to have you on board from Kansas. Bobby Burgess, hello there, nice to have you here. Josh Evangelo in Chesapeake, Virginia. iMapper from Moscow, nice to have you here. We have 13TW093, which I guess by the post is in Germany. Richard Cook, nice to have you on board from the UK. And Lewis65, nice to have you on board from the UK. Southern Illinois San, nice to have you here. Mohammed Ali, nice to have you here. Yes, there are some Arabic transmissions on shortwave. There's Arabic coming from many stations, like, you know, the BBC and some other broadcasters, Voice of Turkey and so on. But there's also, you know, Saudi Arabia that is only in Arabic. There's Oman also that's broadcasting on shortwave in Arabic. So there's many stations in Arabic. Politico, nice to have you on board. Pretty cool. Only 3-second ad before. Yeah, they're getting good at this. I've noticed that more and more ads are like 6 seconds or less. Really short. And I like that. And I think everybody likes that because one of the things about YouTube that was always kind of a little problematic for the monetization is the fact that, you know, you want to watch a 2-minute video and there's a 30-second ad and you're like, wow, it seems like a really big ad for just a 2 or 3 minute video. And they're trying to go towards ads that are like 6 seconds. That would be the norm. Actually, in 2018, I believe they have, they want to actually have, you know, as many 6-second ads as possible instead of these big long ads, you know. Some of these ads are crazy. I mean, I saw one the other day about a bank. I think it was 6 minutes long. Come on. No one's going to watch a 6-minute ad. I'm sorry, but that's crazy. And I think the advertisers that do this don't understand what YouTube is. Brandy Handel 3, nice to have you here. Juan Amigo, nice to have you on board from Barcelona. Dan 805, pretty cool to have you on board. And got an email from a student in his class, decided his project, and told him that he's interested in about a TFDO V115. Cool. PLF Radio, nice to have you here. Richard Cook, of course, the Vaults from Latvia. Jerry, nice to have you here. Brett Wayne, KC2NXP. Ultralight Radio DXing, nice to have you on board. If I miss out on anybody, say hi, please. Where else we are? Douglas Perry, nice to have you on board. Radioactive, hello there. Richard Cook saying that E11 is due on 11107 in a few minutes. Mohamed Ali from Baghdad, nice to have you here. Randall Ramsey, nice to have you here. And yes, all the diehard listeners. Jerry says you need 4 fingers of vodka in there. Yeah, well, you know, sometimes they, you know, somebody told me you should drink, you know, a little bit of alcohol because it will put you back on track. But I kind of chose water. Steve in Australia, nice to have you here. Holy Dian, nice to have you on board from Nairobi, Kenya. Wow. Pretty cool. You inspired me to get a shortwave radio, Texan PL680. Nice. You're gonna have a great time with that radio for sure. So it's kind of cool. Kind of cool. David Arden says, just got some water for myself. Cheers. Yep. Cheers. David, hello there. Nice to have you here. Jerry's Vids, nice to have you on board. Morristown, Tennessee, nice to have you here. Kamal Zoro, nice to have you here. How about the new XH Data D808 receiver? I don't know exactly how it performs. I'm not really sure. We would have to need to read more on that for sure. F. Blassie, nice to have you here. I believe from Oakland, California. PLF Radio, will you tune today? Yeah, we'll tune around a little bit, of course, and we'll talk about different things. I got questions. John Timken, nice to have you here. Says my wife's gone to party tonight, so I'll match you beer for beer through the show. Drinking water, unfortunately, so it's going to be difficult. You'll have to match my your beer with my water tonight. Would you recommend me a small size radio receiver with shortwave, medium wave, FM bands? I want to take it and give to my dad. If you don't want to spend a lot of money and you want to have just plain fun, I think it's here somewhere. I talked about it on the channel. I would suggest to you the fantastic Texan PL380. I mean, for money versus performance, this little radio is really an amazing performer, and that's going to be a very beautiful gift. If you don't want to spend too much money but have something that really, you know, receives well, this thing receives medium wave, FM, shortwave, and it is really, I think for the price, probably the best value you can have. Around lately it's been around $50, but sometimes you can get it a little lower than that. If you want to give a gift that's a little more expensive, well, you can go into the higher end of like the Texan PL680, which is a great radio and adds a few capabilities. So It's I think that's going to be a great great little receiver. So and Lewis says, "Here the dog gel." Quick question: have you had any luck with receiving the buzzer lately? I haven't had received the buzzer, Brandy Handel. Here in Montreal, I haven't heard it in months. But when I tune the software-defined receivers online from Europe, I hear it quite well. So it is online, and basically let me just check here if I can. Amazon, let's see, if I can get that Tecsun PL 380. Do they have it on Amazon? I believe they do, by the way. So I've been rather out of luck. So now this is from Amazon Canada, but I'm sure you can get it in your neck of the woods. Thanks, Bobby, you just shared it. Thank you, Bobby, for sharing it. So, great little receiver, by the way, Tecsun PL 380. So, yeah, it's I haven't heard it in a while, but I think it was Wednesday or Thursday evening. I tuned a little bit the online SDR from Sweden, and I tried 4625. I could hear the buzzer really well. So it's online. It's just that propagation hasn't been really that great to have the station come in or the buzzer come in here, propagate up to Montreal. It's a little difficult here, and I have a lot of noise, so it's kind of difficult to get. Hey, greetings there from Athens, Greece. Spiros, nice to have you here, and pretty cool. From SY1AQV, nice to have you on board. And I'm having water, which is very exceptional for radio shows. Here it's about it's +3 Celsius, around 36, 37 Fahrenheit, something like that. To Holland, nice to have you on board. PD1PME, nice to have you on board. Paul, as usual. And is Sony an acceptable receiver compared to Tecsun ones? Sony M70. So I'm just going to check what that is. I've actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at it here. I think it's going to be easier to do it by the laptop over here, and I'll check out the Google. Sony, what is the M780? M780. Okay, I see it here. Reviews of it. 115. It's a little expensive. There's somebody that tested that receiver on YouTube. So, it's a little expensive, and it does it have shortwave? I guess. Let me just check that out. I don't see the bands in it or anything, but it looks like, yeah, medium wave, long wave, short wave. Yep, it's got all the interesting radio. A little expensive, but I don't know if it performs. I don't know if anyone has had the possibility of testing out that radio, but I can't answer on that question of how does it compare to a Tecsun at all. Richard Cook says empty carry on 6060, no audio whatsoever. David Arden says yes, so welcome Sparrows from Greece. Mikael Damage, hello there, nice to have you on board. Mickey says, after yesterday's reminiscing, I have thousands of hours recorded on cassettes that I plan to digitize. Yesterday I found a half-hour very good recording of RRI FAC 4789.12 from July 11, 1999. Wow. This is something absolutely, you need to do this for sure. You know, put all these recordings on YouTube, and for everybody to share it. Really would be so cool to see hear all of that. I'm searching YouTube all the time for old recordings of stations from the past. There's quite a lot of it, but there's, you know, so much more that could be there. I need to find my tapes. I've got tapes here also of a lot of stuff. David says, I'm asking because you almost always mention Texan ones. Well, you know, the only receiver from Sony that I know is a very good one, the Sony ICF 7600, is a great radio, and that one is amazing. I don't know about the one that you're referring to, but I don't believe Sony. I think everything. I think everything that is from Sony pretty much usually is usually good. So I would guess it might not be bad, but unfortunately, you know, that's the only thing I don't have here is Sony Shortwave. I have many brands, you know, Grundig, Texans, and also all Panasonic. I've had Sangean, I've had. But I don't have a Sony. I've never had a Sony Shortwave. Almost got it a 7600 at some point. But I know if you look at the Sony ICF 7600, they have it on Amazon. It's a pretty good one, I can tell you. Jerome's too, nice to have you on board. So, from Poland. Fast Load, nice to have you here. Yeah, this is water because I'm a little hungover from last night. Went downtown with some friends and kind of got overboard a little bit. So today is water. William Helms, nice to have you on board. So, the update of YouTube ad. So, Bobby Burgess, how many McDonald's you have in Montreal and how many has kiosk ordering? We've got a ton of McDonald's in Montreal. I can't say how many, but it's like something you see everywhere, and they almost all have kiosk ordering. They almost all have it. There's very little McDonald's that don't have that. We have a lot of so, you know. SG2 is Nebraska. Nice to have you here. Yeah, for audio and video, SoundCloud is also a great place to put all the audio. Absolutely. So SG2 is Nebraska says Sony model number ICF M780N. It receives FM 76 megahertz to 108 megahertz, AM 531 to 1710 kilohertz. Do you have the shortwave reception? What's the frequency range for the shortwave reception? Because I see there's a SW on one of the buttons, so it must have shortwave, I would guess. What else do we have? What we have here? So David Arden says, got a lot of European medium wave stations on cassette, want to digitize them too. Yeah, absolutely. Steve in Australia says, don't forget Grundig. Yep, Grundig receivers are pretty good. Absolutely. My Grundig G5 is amazing. For a portable, this is the most amazing portable receiver that I have. And I need to buy the Pledge to clean it because it has that rubberized finish that is now really disgusting. But if anyone that can get a Grundig G5, I have to say this is the best portable receiver I own. This beats everything else that I've got here. If you can get one, even used, if it works well, you're getting a great machine. And not just for shortwave. It is actually used a lot among FM DXers because the FM portion of this radio just so amazing. So really Really, really a great radio, I gotta say. So, Grandic G5, if you can get a Grandic G5, this is a great receiver, have to say. I need to use it a little more. Been a while since I've tuned with it. Daxfire74, nice to have you here. Says he's got an ICF Pro 80. It's a cool scanner from 1989. They made a lot of cool things and very nice things. Sony had some really nice ones. Absolutely. What do we have here? Fastlow says got the Grandic Satellite 6001 210 coming your way soon. Yeah, cool. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to check out. Blassy's got a Sony multiband. Tony Perron, nice to have you here. Mad Radio DXer. What is your take on the realistic weather radio from the 80s? I owned a few of the. I owned a few of those. I owned a cube. They were like this cube with weather radio and stuff like that. Some of them were kind of cool, you know. They were dedicated weather radios, but they were kind of cool, really kind of cool. And I don't have anymore. There's a few things I had when I was younger that kind of disappeared over time. So it's a little sad for that. But there's a lot of interesting stuff that came out of Realistic and Radio Shack from that period of time. Really a lot of cool little radios. Yeah, I have that here too, Bobby. There's so many McDonald's in Montreal that there would be more than 100, and I would not even be surprised. I mean, they're everywhere, and I live right near one. 5 minutes walking distance. I'm at the McDonald's here. What I mostly like, sorry, what I mostly like is the 24-hour breakfast now, because I like to have their breakfast sandwich. Radioactive says there's some SSTV on 14230. Let's check it out. Be cool to decode some slow scan TV. We'll leave it here, and we'll see if something comes up. What I'll do, I will take the, just in case that something does pop up, I will leave SSTV software for the decoding. I got this really cool, some really cool receive. Let's just go here. Well, I can see it here like this. Let me just okay. I had some really nice. That's not what I wanted to do, obviously. But it's receive. Receive. I think you can. Anyways, I have nice Wolverine decode. So I'm gonna leave it here in case there's some SSTV. Maybe it's gonna show up. Richard Cook says 31 meters, very quiet here. Looks like propagation is poor. 9320 says I had a realistic DX160 as a kid. These days I use Kato 1103, which is the same as the Legion 1103 that I believe I've got here very close. If I'm not mistaken, I had it very close to this place. Unless I took it out. I took it out, maybe. It was near here. I think I saw it yesterday. So, great receiver. Kato K1103 is an amazing, good receiver. I got Best Buy. I got Best 365 PL365 in 4 days ago. Okay, good little portable receiver, which is the same as the Counticom GP5 SSB. Really nice. And the other Yexter says Grenig G5, aka Ethon E5. Yep, absolutely same radios, absolutely. But really amazing. Some of the best. Some of the best. So, oh, what is Pledge? Pledge is a it's a can of can of spray that you usually use to kind of you know, clean and polish tables with, or you know, they have, you know, different scents like lemon scent and so on. And in a post somebody said that it works fantastically well to remove the disgusting gooey you know, from the receivers that have that rubber finish on it, because I mean, it after a certain time it gets disgusting. I've got a few radios that have that rubberized finish around it. Oh man, it really gets disgusting after time. It's as if the humidity and the finish of the radio kind of mix together and just create that gooey, disgusting thing. So you know, pretty cool. Turkey signing off on 6050. Michael Langer, nice to have you here. Says I've got a 200 XLT recording, got it on the Vox. Pretty cool. Knob on the bottom to tune different NOAA stations. Pretty cool. And 05 says realistic weather radios back in the 80s only had 3 channels. Now there's about 10. Yeah, there are more. I think there's 7. I think it's 7 different channels now. But it is true that they had only a couple of channels. I'm trying to remember, but I think you're right. I had like 3 channels or something like that. Because now they've actually put, you know, in the spaces where there were nothing, they actually have the frequencies now for some NOAA weather stations. So they've added, I think it's 7, the total number of weather channels today. Absolutely. MDK2, nice to have you here, says digging the nice signal from Zanzibar on 11735. Usually doesn't I've got a faint carrier and that's it. Nothing to for me to receive audio. Michael Neister, is all SSTV, SSV, or some AM? Actually, amateur radio, slow scan television is sent in upper sideband, but you can, and an example of that is I've seen a broadcast once in AM mode that actually had a single that had SSTV on it in the AM mode. The only thing that you have to, you know, as long as the audio is exactly as it should be for the software to decode it in the correct frequencies and tones, you can, you know, you can put that audio in AM mode and you will decode some slow scan TV. So what else do we have here? But in the amateur bands, it is really only an upper sideband. But it can be done in AM. Hey, 2 ends on the radio. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you on board. Yeah, so it's a brand of furniture polish, exactly, as Ann Lewis is saying. So, hello there, Hidden Rabbit. Nice to have you here. Faslot says he had a Zenith Transoceanic a few years back, sold it to a Yahoo Group user for 150 as is. These are nice radios, those old radios. Hey there, nice to have you here. Says I managed to catch the show live in over 6 months. First time in 6 months right now using a Sony ICF 2001D, aka the Sony ICF 2010. Which my landlord was kind enough to provide a nice upgrade from my old Sangean ATS 505. Great radio. You'll really have a lot of fun with that. Richard says, weird, 9935 wasn't hearable when I tuned around 10 minutes ago. Now I have it. Maybe they were off. Maybe they were off. Fast load. I put the discount. I dismantled the discount and put it in the shed because I've been receiving. I've been receiving the better with my vertical mobile. Just to give you an idea. So it's kind of funny. So I just dismantled it. So I had to hell with it. I don't want to have that thing in the air. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same pole that I actually purchased for that. I'm going to put a my 102-inch CB antenna on top, and I'll have an antenna for my realistic TRC 432 that I'll be able to use instead. Danny05 says NOAA weather radio breakdown. 8 are for normal use, 2 are used for marine boats, and 1 is used for auxiliary repeater channel. Thanks for the information. Nuridun Mazari, bonsoir, bienvenue d'Algérie. Nice to have everybody on board. And by the way, I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I didn't say it at the beginning, but a lot of people ask me, "Oh, where are you from? Where are you from?" So I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Steve says my R5000 after so many years has been retired, replaced by his SDR Play RSP2. With the dots issue and key bounce, it needed to be done. Sadly, the SDR Play, wow, amazing, cool. Yeah, I had the same. The R5000 fast load has it right now, and they almost all do this after a certain time. Get the dots problem in the display because it loses the lock of the PLL, so it can't display. It doesn't know where it is, basically, and. Basically, let's just put it back here. See if I can get a. Let's see if I can get any SSTV. Who knows? So unfortunately, that's the biggest problem of the Kenwood R5000. It actually, gets that dot problem at some point. Michael Langer said had a yacht net every week from the south. Do you recall NOAA HF for or VHF for marine frequencies? Thanks. Yeah, there's still some Coast Guard weather stuff on the HF. Radioactive says signals are low on 14230, not one clean decode of the SSTV yet. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with the with SSTV. Unless you get a really clean signal, it's hard to get a real clear picture, you know. So hey DMP, nice to have you here. Have you used one of those Morse code to text decoders on shortwave? If so, do they properly decode? The biggest problem with any electronic decoding of Morse code is the fact that a lot of the Morse code sent is sent by the human hand, and a lot of them are very slightly in speed as they're being sent. So what happens is that the software tries to lock in on a specific speed, and when the Morse code is sent by hand, the decode is not perfect. Almost everything I've seen, including software, have a lot of difficulty decoding Morse correctly. When it's sent by a computer, because some people actually have their computers, plugged onto transceivers and send Morse code by typing on the computer instead. When it's sent by a computer, the decode is good because it's very stable. But when it's sent by a human hand, you never get a 100% decode. You always get some random, spurious, weird characters in there. But some software are better than others. I tried a few CW only decoders, like it's a CW Get, I think it's called. I gotta say, some of them are better than others. The one that I use with FLDJ is okay, but it's not the best. It does have a lot of problems in decoding. especially when the speed varies all the time. So it's really crazy. Yep, it's that wax that they use in the PLL circuit that decays, and it even becomes kind of acidly. Check 6925 upper sideband. Let's check that out. Pirate station maybe. And I ain't getting anything. Just checking out the pirate. Nothing there, so I'm not getting anything on 6925 here. Anybody receiving some pirate station on 6925 upper sideband? For the frequencies of the HF stuff, if you go on Google, Michael, and type U.S. Coast Guard HF weather, you will get many pages where there's schedules of all the different stations that you can hear the Coast Guard weather. One that I hear very often here is in Chesapeake, Virginia. It broadcasts on 6501 upper sideband, one of the frequencies. I think it's coming up in half an hour or something, 2100. Gerald, to tell about antennas. You know, antennas, it's the best. There's different types of antennas, and it all depends on what, you know, how you are placed. What, you know, if you live in an apartment, do you have a home, do you have some outdoor space? Depending on the noise, you know, an outdoor wire is an amazing piece of antenna, but it also catches a lot of noise, so it depends what you want to do, you know. But the best for any shortwave radio is when you can actually get at least an outdoor antenna, a piece of wire, something. That's the first thing, and the best way to bring it inside is with a shielded coax cable, a little bit like I think I've got some here, something like this. This is a shielded coax, so you have the center connector and you have the braided shield around it. So here, this one has the SO239 plug on it, but that's the best way to bring the antenna inside, because the shielded cable shields the signal from all the interference around you. Radio Hobbyist, nice to have you here. Niruddin Mazari has a Texan PL660 and a Sony ICF 7600, and yep, they're both amazingly good radios, absolutely. Steve says started to remove the potting compound, which becomes conductive, but geez, big job. Yeah, you gotta really. Yeah, CW skimmer is not too bad. Not too bad. I'll check it out. I did try it a little bit. CW skimmer seems to be it's actually capable of decoding even when the Morse code isn't, you know, sent with a very precise rhythm. MDK2 says there's something unusual on 6925 upper sideband, checking out weird noises via Northeast Pennsylvania SDR music now. Okay, so there's something on 6925 USB. William Helm says my cousin wanted to buy me a Zenith Transoceanic until he found out that the antique store he saw it in started at $300. Yeah, some of them, you know, especially when they're very, very clean and very, very well done, I can tell you. You know what, multi-PSK and FLDG, honestly, personally, I find PLF radio that they actually are pretty much in the same game for I don't think multi-PSK I've tried it. I don't think multi-PSK CW mode is better than the one on FLDG. I think they're pretty much the same. The best that I've seen are the ones that only do CW, like CW skimmer, as Waltz is mentioning. those that are dedicated for Morse code actually are better than the multi-mode decoders. Yeah, absolutely. You get a lot of little E's because it doesn't identify or can't decode, as Danny05 says. Randall Renzi says, I use Morse pad from iTunes App Store. Got to make sure you set the send rate correctly and turn on the microphone. Jerry says 6925, got audio about S5. Okay, pretty cool. Hey Richard in Atlanta, Georgia, nice to have you on board. He's receiving 6925 Parrot S3. So it seems a little stronger down the east, farther down maybe. I've got absolutely nothing here. Dan05 says very strong Pirate on 6925. So kind of interesting. Let's see if I just try it again. Yeah, maybe I got it really weak. I seem to hear a little something in the noise, but it's very, very weak here. 9320 says, wait, let me just go back here. Listening in the mid-70s, sunspot cycle was especially high in those days, and you could really hear the entire world on any given night. The 70s and even the 80s and the 90s, we had some major but really, really amazing solar cycles. And I mean, when we were at the peak of these cycles, I remember in the summertime here, with these cycles that were so strong, you know, I could hear at midnight. I remember local time midnight, I was hearing Radio Australia on 21740 that were using that 15-meter band frequency. And I remember hearing that every night. I mean, propagation was amazing. And I mean, in the wintertime, 10-meter band was full of signals. It's just crazy. 9320 says, seems like a much different hobby now. I find myself chasing pirates and hams a lot more. Though, if I get up early in the morning, sometimes I get Radio New Zealand. Still love listening. You know, that's what I was talking about yesterday. The lack of signals has kind of forced us to basically go and tune other signals, which is kind of interesting because we, you know, in the 80s, and as I was saying, in the 80s when I started listening, there were so many signals. I mean, like I was saying yesterday, at 0100 UTC, you would have like 30 different English language broadcasts you can choose from tons of different countries. And it seems that I was kind of, you know, listening more to the international broadcast bands then. And as the stations slowly, there were less and less stations to hear. I think it forced me to really, you know, diversify my listening, and I started, of course, getting stations. You know, going to the ham bands more, going to the utility stuff a lot more. And, you know, today I look at that and I wished I would have done more utility listening when I was when I started on shortwave. One thing for sure that didn't help is that the X100 was my first radio. It's okay for international broadcasting, but for utility signals, this thing is a piece of crap. And of course that didn't help. But when I moved to a realistic DX302, I should have listened more to utility signals, because you know, it's a part that I think would have been there were, you know, probably tons and tons more signals for utility stuff in the 80s than there were today. You know, I didn't hear my first time I heard a number station. Man, it was somewhere in the 90s when I got my Kenwood R5000. I got a Kenwood R5000. I got it in 1990. And in the following years, because that receiver actually was very, very, very good. One thing for sure is that it was easier to tune around in the different, you know, frequency ranges. So that's, you know, I probably heard my first number station somewhere in the mid-90s. And there were a lot of them in the 80s. I mean, there was many more number stations back then, especially with the Cold War going on. So, you know, I missed out on a lot of things that I didn't do back then that today when I think about it, it's like, well, you know, it probably would have been really, really nice to have all of these signals to listen to back then. So, you know, and, yep. And as Mad Radio DX says, DX is more the medium wave band now. You know, it kind of gave us more of, you know, we're tuning much more the different frequency ranges that probably wouldn't tune before because of there were so many signals. Val says the best part of CW Skimmer can take a really wide input range from SDR and decode all the signals at once. Yes, that I had noticed that it can decode like multiple signals at the same time. This is, I gotta say, that's cool because it's really, really fun too. It's like you know, when you're using a different, like FLDG for example. That I like. You go in if you go to on PSK31. It's fun because on the left side of the screen you could see all the decodes of the different signals on the bottom, and if you want you can just click the text on the left side, which I find really cool, and it brings you to that signal. So on the left side you have multiple PSK31s going on at the same time, which is really, really nice. Hey Sheldon Harvey, bonjour, hi from Greenfield Park, Quebec. Nice to have you on board, of course. Really, really cool. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let me just go down slowly. So, what else do we have? What else do we have? David Arden says, yeah, you know, there's so many things to listen to in the past. I gotta say it was just amazing. Michael Langin says no joy here in Central Illinois on 46925. Yeah, here it's mostly in the North America. The only thing we hear almost in the long wave band is beacons, the non-directional beacons for aviation. Yeah, maybe if you're, you know, the people that I've seen, as David Arden says, if you live on the East Coast, you could have a good antenna. And I've seen a few people from, you know, that are really close to the Atlantic Ocean on the East Coast that seem to get some transatlantic listening of these long wave stations from Europe. So 9320 says just use a Kato 1103 and a Sony active antenna in the apartment. Fortunately, when you're in an apartment, it's kind of difficult to have an antenna for sure. Sheldon Harvey says that 6925 USB is amphetamine radio, which is a regular pirate. But here I've barely hear something. Barely. I kind of make out that there's something in the noise, but can't really listen to it. Muglow, nice to have you here from Northport, Florida. Pretty cool. Daniel05 says just announced amphetamine radio. So cool. Reactive says lately I've been finding myself tuning Kyoto News Agency fax. Yes, it is in Japanese, but I just think it's cool. Yeah, absolutely. I've never heard that one. I would like to have a decode of that news agency fax from Japan. It must be really, really cool. I've never got it at all. William Helmson was waxed. That's what's happened to my Greta G6. So I got it. Yeah, you know, some of these have these bad compounds inside them that degrade over time, and it's really nice. Sheldon Harvey says a good lesson learned on yesterday's net. Don't simply look at what station should be on a frequency at a specific time and assume that's what you're hearing. wait for an ID if possible. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to be careful with what you hear and what you think is there, because sometimes you do get burned. Sometimes you think you're hearing something and like, oh, okay, I think it's that, and then, oh, it's not. You know, one of the interesting parts of when you listen a lot, there are some things that you hear sometimes that kind of, you know, you kind of almost know what station it is by the way that it's broadcasting, by the announcers. Like Radio Romania, I tend to, you know, whenever I go on a frequency, the type of modulation they have and the announcers' voices, even if it's not in English, I tend to, you know, have a hunch that, oh, that sounds like Radio Romania. And, you know, you look at it and it's like, oh yeah, it's Romania. Another one that I tend to easily identify, even if there's no ID yet, was Voice of Turkey. They have kind of this unique modulation to their signal that it's like, sounds like Turkey. Of course, sometimes you get the you know, there's music or stuff like that that makes it easy to identify. But absolutely, you gotta dig in, and sometimes you gotta just, you know, you gotta just listen for an ID. You know, I guess somebody yesterday in one of the Facebook groups was mentioning that, oh, I received something on 17775, you know, past 2200 hours UTC. And when you look at the schedules, there's nothing there. But, you know, everybody kind of jumped on and that's maybe one part that I think is a little sad of some of the Facebook groups, is that people, you know, jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, well, that must be Cuba. Hey, you are not listening. You don't know what it is, and it's not on the schedule. Don't just jump in and say, well, that must be Cuba. You know, post a comment when you know what it is. Don't post a comment of, oh, well, that must be Cuba, or that must be, you know. No, 17775 is KVOH out of Rancho Simi, California. And they are in Spanish, and they sometimes go a little longer than 2200 hours. And so when I actually got on the chat, I said, I'm pretty sure that must have been KVOH in California. You know, you say it's in Spanish, and they do sometimes go a little longer than 2200. And after, you know, when I posted, the guy came back and said, yeah, I listened again today, and I got a positive ID. It is KVOH. And I said, yeah, there we go. And, you know, but there were like tons of people just jumping in and saying, oh, well, that's Cuba, that's this, that's that. Hey, you don't have an idea. Don't give out a possible suggestion of what it could be. Just, okay, work on it and try to, you know, that's what I try to do. Every time somebody posts, oh, well, there's this station on that frequency right now, doesn't seem to be on any schedules. I will tend to, I won't post, oh, that must be this. I have no idea. I will do a little bit of searching. I'll go online. I'll check the schedules of, you know, the different schedules of the different websites, and slowly kind of work the way, and, you know, and at some point you find, oh, that is a new frequency for whatever station. It's something that I have a lot of difficulty with, these groups of too many people. You know, it's like the forums when you're actually searching for a you know, a solution to a problem, a computer problem, and then you get to that page where there's 4 million posts of people that are more annoying than anything else, because they just post, well, did you turn off the PC? Did you? Well, I don't think that is this problem because of, and you look at that, it's like, well, nobody knows, and everybody's posting, and it's like, can you just post when you actually know what to do? You know, and you got to look at 20 pages of nonsense comments just to find out, okay, that is the solution for this. And there's the same thing in a lot of the groups. A lot of the groups are 20 million annoying posts before somebody posts something and you say, yeah, that's probably it. You know, this is probably the annoying part. So, as you say, Sheldon, ID the station. Don't just look at the schedules. You know, some you'll know it's that, but sometimes you gotta, you know, listen a little more before you know. Steve says, my problem here in Australia for shortwave is agent stations on nearly every 5 kHz of every band. So yeah, that is that is the funny thing. In Asia, there's so many signals. I mean, when I actually when I listen to SDRs and like the one in Hong Kong, I mean, it's crazy because you tuned and it brings me back to when, you know, that was what we were receiving in North America in the 80s, station every 5 kHz. You know, back then the problem was not receiving a station. The problem was you needed good receivers to be able to hear that station next to the gazillion other stations around it, which was a good or a nice problem, if you want. So Michael Andrews says, Brother Stare, driving him nuts. I think it's driving nuts a lot of people, I can tell you that. So what else do we have? Vaults, because you need to take some med to hear it. Oh God. David Arden says, one of your listeners in Virginia has a beverage antenna and listens to long-wave broadcasts from Europe. I'm jealous. Yeah, that's the fun thing. I've never heard any long-wave from Europe. Never. And a lot of them were very powerful. Huh? Some of them are like in the megawatt power. So, really crazy. Steve's got his first QSL car with CHU Canada. Wow, nice. It's funny because, you know what, I QSL CHU and WWV, but it took a long time for me to QSL. It's as if, because it wasn't an international broadcast of some kind of show, for a long time it didn't come to me that, oh well, you can QSL these, and I don't know, it kind of wasn't in my mind. Radio Obvious says, got any good QSL cards? Let's see them. Yeah, you know what? I'll take note of that, and a little later, yeah, why not? I'm just gonna try to find my QSL books there. I got one there, and I've got another one here. So I'll bring out some of my QSLs for sure. And by the way, we've got a question about QSLs. So let's, as we're in the subject there. We've got Frank that is in Tampa Bay, Florida, and one of the questions he's got is he's written to Radio Havana, Cuba 3 months ago to get a QSL card, and he says hasn't received anything. He was wondering if it's normal, do they QSL or do they reply? Hint, Radio Havana, Cuba will send you a QSL. They are pretty good QSLers. But it's very long. Every time I write to a Radio Havana, Cuba, last time you know what, I got a QSL, I think was last year. I think I sent for a QSL to Radio Havana, Cuba, because I took the occasion also to say, I took the occasion to say, you know, that I'm listening to their programs and everything, and I think it took 6 months before I got a reply. I got the QSL, but 6 months after. Some stations take a long time to reply back, so be patient. I'm sure you're going to get it, but you're going to get it in, you know. And also you're wondering, well, you know, how to know if a station QSLs or not. What I would tend to do if I want to have a QSL, I would write the station, you know, and don't be, like I always say, don't be a QSL hog. Don't just say, hey, I listened to you yesterday, I want a QSL, thank you, bye. That is a little rude, and I think you owe them at least to show that you're interested in you know, that you're listening to their programs. Let them know you're listening. Don't think anyone owes you anything. No stations owe you a QSL card, but you know, just be polite. Tell them you're listening to their programs. Do a nice little letter that, you know, they know that you're listening. In passing, well, I was listening to you yesterday, blah blah blah, that frequency, that time, and this is the program I heard. And ask for a QSL, and if they have, they will gladly send one to you. If they don't, often what they do is they reply back and they say, oh well, we don't have QSL cards, and that's it. But never be mad at because they don't have a QSL card. Like I always say, no radio stations owe you anything. And the worst that you can be is a QSL hog, because you're just asking for QSLs and doing nothing else. And you know, I'll be honest, for a while in the 80s when I was younger, I probably was more of a QSL hog than anything else. Until later, I started, you know, really writing them and letting them know that I enjoy their programs and everything, and taking more time to show that I'm interested in their broadcasts. Fabrice Simonet, bonjour, welcome aboard. 9320 says his first QSL from Radio Australia back in '76. Wow, I've got a lot of Radio Australia QSLs for sure. Really interesting. Jerry says he's got 6925 at S6 now. Wow. So Steve says it was the reverse, opposite way. He says that he started with utility station listening and later shortwave broadcasts. Well, you know, there are groups, and I remember some shortwave clubs that actually were specialized in utility listening. Some shortwave listeners, that's their kick, listening to utility stations. Mellow Yellow says the only long wave he's heard is from airport beacons. Yeah, that's pretty much what we hear in North America. Mickey Delmage says on November 12, listening at the Dawn Moment Antenna Farm, we had 153 kilohertz Norway. Wow. Got that for hours near Lamont, Alberta. Wow, that's cool. I mean but that guy has like really, you know, the top-notch antennas and low noise, everything that's you know. Yeah, I'm MDK too. Yeah, I think it's you that I've seen that you've suggested KVOH for sure. It's really, really nice. Really, really nice. Yeah. What else do we have here? You know, Jerry says looks like shortwave info isn't 100% accurate. Actually, none of the lists are 100% accurate all the time. I mean, even though there's a lot, you know, like EIBI space is updated regularly. The last update is 28th of November. You know, they do a great job at maintaining and trying to maintain the accuracy of the schedules, but they're not 100% accurate. You know, there's always some station somewhere that might have changed its frequency for a reason. Sometimes they change the frequency because they got interference, you know. So it's just, you know, you gotta sometimes really listen in and dig in order to really know what you're listening to. Southern Illinois Sands says, should the shortwave bands be reduced in size and auctioned off by FCC since there are fewer stations? No need for all of that dead space for broadcasters. No, because first of all, you can't do this really, because for a very simple reason. The unique properties of shortwave means that if you start auctioning off and doing other things with that spectrum, you're on the shortwave frequencies. That means it propagates and possibly propagates around the world. That means that here in North America, for example, it's more quiet, but in Asia it's not. In Asia there's tons of signals, and if you start messing around with that, what's going to happen is that if you start messing around with the shortwave broadcast bands, you're going to interfere with legitimate stations thousands of miles away. So you can't really do that. And all the bands, the shortwave bands, and the way that they are actually built, it's something that it's decided by international regulations. So a country technically cannot say, I'm taking shortwave and I don't know, I'm gonna put some TV stations on that. It can't be really done. Yes, a country could do it and just not care about international regulations, but it's like it's technically not a good idea. And there's less stations, but there's something on almost every frequency range. If you look at the EIBI list, EIBI.de list by frequencies, you'll notice that every frequency range, every megahertz of the spectrum has something on it. So even though it's more quiet, it's still used, and it's used everywhere. So you can't do that. You can't really do that. So Brett Wayne said he sent a slow scan TV on 14233, but nothing in your end. So but I just got an email from Radioactive sending me some slow scan TV pictures. So amazing. Dave Todd, nice to have you here, says, when it was crowded in the 80s, I listened to AM stations in SSB mode, upper or lower sideband, depending on which side of the interference coming from. Yeah, a lot of stations I've listened to in single sideband mode, also to try to prevent the interference from the up or down. Sheldon Harvey says, we have the Exeter here in St. Lambert, Alan Roberts, who has many long wave stations over the years. He uses short vertical homemade antennas. So yeah, I think the clue, the biggest clue, is to have to mostly have low noise. It's the #1 thing. Can one QSL digital mode stations? Some of them probably, like for example, I'm sure that you can probably QSL the U.S. Coast Guard with some of the weather facts broadcasts. There are some things like that for sure, and basically there are some utility stations that send digital mode stuff. What's nice with it, if you can decode the digital mode, well, you can actually show them the proof that, hey, I've received the weather facts from, say, Boston. I'm pretty sure that some of them have either QSL cards or QSL letters. I've QSL'd a few utility stations and got QSL back from them. So I would think yes, probably it is possible. Southern Illinois Sanders says, it's my opinion that shortwave radio spectrum is too much, since fewer stations. Why have all that dead space? Yeah, but it's, like I said, it's rather, it's crowded by different stations pretty much in every megahertz of the spectrum. So even if there's less signals, there's still signals everywhere. And like I said, the fact that it's shortwave, it's not, when you auction off VHF or UHF spectrum, well, you auction off spectrum that is only going to be received in your country. Shortwave is very different. You can't auction off shortwave for something else, because you are going to be sending signals that will actually go around the world, and that might interfere with other people. So it's I think I don't think you can really, or it would be really really do anything with that spectrum, and it's not that big of a spectrum, honestly. It looks huge when we look at it, 3 to 30 megahertz, but it's a very small chunk of spectrum in reality. Because if you look at for example, the auctioning of the old cell frequencies, you know, the analog cellular band that was auctioned off. When you look at that, I mean, that was much bigger chunk of spectrum than the shortwave bands themselves. And so, you know, I think the shortwave bands are fine how they are. I think it's okay, you know. I mean, over the years there were some regulations, some changes there for regulations. There were some, you know, they added a few in the 80s. The last time they did like changes was, I think it's the early 90s, and they added a few international broadcast bands. Unfortunately, things go too slow because we would have needed some, you know, new spectrum for international broadcasts way back in the 80s and the 70s. That's when we needed more space. And it was given later when stations were fewer and we just didn't need them anymore, but they actually, you know, were enforced. So, you know, just crazy. Okay, what else do we have? Apparently there was some slow scan TV on 6925, which is often the case on a lot of the pirate stations. So I didn't hear anything. If I would have, you see, I was on 6925. If I would have heard just enough, decent enough signal, it would have shown up there because it's in automatic mode for slow scan TV pictures right now. So, you know, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Like Radioactive says, some of the things that some of the reasons why some stations broadcast outside of their regular schedule sometimes is for special events. Absolutely. 830 Radio Man, nice to have you on board from California. And what else do we have? Yeah, that's the thing of yesterday. Solomon Islands don't broadcast in Spanish. They have English and I believe some local native languages over there. So Heffel Welsh, nice to have you on board from Ottawa. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Heffel Welsh did a great show yesterday. Missed it, but watch it back later. Thanks. It was really cool. Hope I don't look too messed up. I'm a little tired from my outing with some friends, and came back home. It was 2:30 in the morning, so I'm a little. That's why I'm drinking water today. Michael Lange says, "Got a QSL from military rebroadcast, Armed Forces radio and TV broadcasts." Yeah, I remember the Armed Forces radio network for the U.S. I remember when they were playing. So many times I would hear them playing, rebroadcasting some baseball games on shortwave. That was kind of interesting. So Theo, nice to have you here. A little tired, but okay. Not okay. Not too bad. Daryl 1903, is the 10 meter or 12 meter bands open? They aren't open much recently. Even the 15 meter band, 21 megahertz, is very, very little activity because of the low solar activity. That's also a question I've got from, the question is from Mark. And he actually asked me, I've been listening, so he says you've seen my video on the 10 meter AM band. And you've seen some videos of me posting 10 meter amateur band reception. He says that he's been trying for the past couple of months and never heard a peep or a signal on 10 meters. So I was wondering, is that band really used? And you know, that's the biggest problem right now, is because we have a very low solar activity. what's happening is that the 10-meter band isn't open much. But it's, and the 12-meter band also. Anything above 25 megahertz is kind of not propagating on the shortwave spectrum right now. But do listen regularly, because there's not only the solar activity that will impact the 10-meter band. There are things like sporadic E-skip, for example. Sporadic E-skip is a phenomenon that can happen at any time, day or night. And when it's there, you can hear stuff. So one of the best places to actually know when a band is open, and it is, let me just, DX Maps, I believe. Let me just check it out here. So DX, I think it's dxmaps.com. Yeah, that's it. So I'll post the link here. And just look at the maps here. You will have propagation of different amateur bands. It's pretty much real time, so you can actually check that out. And there you choose 10-meter band at the top. So you choose HF, you choose the 10-meter band, and if you start seeing little lines of communications between amateur radio stations, you know that the 10-meter band is open. Sometimes you'll see it open in a specific place. For when there's sporadic E-skip, for example. That's one phenomenon that often creates propagation on the 10-meter band for a very specific area. So you'll have, for example, sporadic E-skip along the east coast of North America. You'll hear stations up and down the coast, up to here in Montreal, for example, but the west coast might not hear anything, or Europe will not hear anything. Sometimes it's very localized, especially with sporadic E-skip, which is different than from when you get the 10-meter band open from solar activity, which usually will give you, on the daytime side of Earth, pretty much propagation from Europe to North America and so on. But some sporadic E-skip sometimes is really, really huge, so you can have stations from quite far. The last time the 10-meter band I heard something was, I'd say about a month ago. I noticed, I was looking at the DX cluster, and I noticed a lot of people posting FT8 digital mode signals on the 10-meter band, 28074, I believe. So I was curious, so I actually turned on my radio, and I actually put the decoding of FT8 on 10 meters, and you know what? I actually heard some FT8 from South America. There were tons of stations coming in from Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, even the Caribbean region. So it's kind of interesting, and you gotta listen regularly. Even if you don't hear anything, it doesn't mean that there's nothing at all. So you gotta listen regularly, and you will be rewarded at some point with some stations or some amateur stations that you'll hear. So 9320 says, memory serves, last time they added the international shortwave bands would have been about 83 or 84, 13600, 13900. That one came in the 80s, the 22-meter band, but there's also, I believe in the late 80s, early 90s, there was another ad, which was the little bands, that were like, there was one on the top of 18 megahertz, 18900 to 19,000 kilohertz. There was a little, they used a little part there. A few stations used it, but there's like no stations anymore in there. So Calvin, nice to have you on board. Fabrice Simonet, can we expect a station broadcasting all the matches of soccer World Cup? That is a good idea. That's an interesting idea. I don't know. Some station, I know that there's a lot of sports coming out of the Spanish national radio, but it's there's not a lot of sports in general on shortwave. So David Arden says, I just had a 10-meter QSO last week. Of course, he was in the same city. Yeah, that's almost like CB. See, Joe, nice to have you here. No Christmas lights yet. Yeah, well, actually, I had my string of Christmas lights here, but I took them down because I needed lights. So they're, you know, they're basically here in a pack right there. There's about 100 of those. And I didn't have time to put it back up. I wanted to put it back up for today's show, but I didn't have time to do it. So they're coming. They're coming. So, yeah, there was the Christmas tree is done. Politico says, yeah, it sucks now. Every time I go on the air, I visit band conditions, bandcondition.com. and select is banned. So, you know, it's good to see the propagation possibilities. So that's bandconditions.com. I'm gonna check that out also. Calvin says, heard some skip from Europe and the UK on 11 meters yesterday. So, you know, it's you gotta you know, listen regularly. I gotta say, Radio Obvious says another good propagation cluster site he uses is the chart down the right side of the page updates constantly, dxeat.com. So that's another one that you can check out. I don't know, I've never got on that one. I think let's check it out here, dxeat.com. So I like, you know, that's what I like about the community and the fact that we're a gang like this, because, you know, everyone has its own little, you know, search and its own little, oh, it looks nice. It does look very, very nice. One that I use a lot is DX Fun Cluster. That one's nice. Oh yeah, it's nice. Like it. You know, that's also something that I like a lot, the clusters. So you can, you know, see what AM stations are on the air, and, you know, sometimes when I want to DX in the amateur bands, you know, I want to sometimes see, oh, are there any African stations, or, you know, I'll use one of these clusters and look at the call signs, and when I see that there's a call sign from an exotic, you know, a country that you don't hear a lot on the bands, I'll click there, and especially if the contact is with an amateur radio operator in the vicinity, you know, northeast of North America, or even just North America, I'll often try it, because, you know, I've heard many DX amateur stations thanks to the clusters, which is really cool. Politico says also the ARRL has monthly band conditions. Band conditions by band and day. Yeah. The only thing I don't like about some websites sometimes have, you know, like these, it's like a forecast of the band conditions in the next weeks, and that's difficult to really do anything about, because to really have it working well, because so many things can happen. You know, the sun can have a new sunspot growing suddenly, and basically you just you know, that's going to change everything, or there's going to be a coronal hole that we didn't know about, you know, and that will also change everything. So Michael Langer says, love the gray line maps, use them, Sat Tracker and NOAA VHF to test propagation and try and hit stations on the way over the house. You know, gray line DXing is amazing. PLF Radio says, when was the last time I heard something on the 11-meter international broadcast band? The last time I heard, wow, that is a great question. When is the last time that I've heard something on the 11-meter band? Probably dates back to I'd say probably the 90s. Probably the 90s. I remember Radio France being there, and I could get it from time to time. And I think it's in the mid 90s or something like that. But I haven't. There's no more transmissions there. The only thing that I hear in there that I can hear from time to time are studio to transmitter links that are from some stations in the US in FM mode. But apart from real international stations, I've not heard anything like that in a very, very long time, and I don't believe that there are any stations using the 11 meter band anymore. So I'm just gonna do something, guys, because the door is closed, and I think I hear Mr. Paul the cat trying to give me a sign that he's there and he wants to come in. So let me just check it out. Yep. Come on, you. Get that. Here we go. Mr. Paul the cat was trying to get my attention, and here is Mr. Cat coming. Well, come over, man. I think he's hungry. So, Connor, the little Aussie cat, nice to have you here from Melbourne, Australia. Had a huge storm yesterday. Wow. Hope everything's all right. Hope everything's all right. What else do we have here? Let me just bring back this. Okay. What else do we have? John Timken says, I gave up on the prop sites that predict band activity. Real-time sites like PSK Reporter are the best. Politico says, typically I'll start transmitting FT8 using 5 watts on each band for 5 minutes. Then I go to PSK Reporter to see how far I'm reaching. Gives me a good idea on how it's propagation. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Bud Householder, nice to have you here. So, Radioactive, sharing the PSK Reported.info. So that's also kind of interesting. It's cool, all these websites. Okay. I mean, he's undecided if he wants to come over or not. Get that. Come on. Doesn't want to. So anyways, dxeat.com. Yeah, that's what I was checking. I didn't know about that website, dxeat.com. Yeah, it's cool. Really cool to have all of that. Here's Mr. Cat saying hello to everybody with his butt. There we go. Mr. Paul is here. So hey there. Mr. Paul saying hi to everyone. So anyways, yeah, tuning in the shortwave broadcast in upper sideband or in single sideband is good for knowing when their stations, weak stations are there, for sure. Yeah, the real-time stuff is kind of cool. I think it's the only one that is really, Yeah, but I also think even if there was high solar activity at PLF radio, I don't think stations want to use that band anymore. It's a very, very unique band, and unless propagation or solar activity is really, really big, really high. 932 says, years ago, South Africa on 11 meter band made it to the east coast of North America. Yeah, I have a QSL card here from Radio RSA on 25790. I used to hear 25790 really well almost every day when I was in the 80s. And I've always liked it because it was one of the only stations I could hear on the 11-meter band. And I always found that it was cool to receive something on that frequency range. Richard in Atlanta, Georgia says, lots of activity on 14222. CK100 VDA, a special event station from Halifax, remembering the Halifax explosion on December 6th, 1917. Oh yeah, it was that time, it was this time of year, eh? That was a whopper of an explosion, I can tell you that. Here we go, Mr. Cat. No, that's not how you want to be. Okay. Let's try it out here, 14.222. Upper sideband. See if we can hear it. It's a little close, so maybe it could be skipping over me. For sure. But yeah, Radio RSA was on the 11-meter band, 25790. It would be very, very, very nice, for sure. So what do we have here? Free Saxon, nice to have you here. Yeah, the guitar and the bird, absolutely. From Radio RSA, that was their interval signal. Actually, if you listen to the interval signal of Channel Africa, it is the same interval signal without the birds and kind of modernized a little bit, but it is the same tune. Channel Africa's the same tune that Radio RSA had. It's kind of been modernized and they removed the birds, but it's the same tune. N34L3, nice to have you here. Ernie Turner, hello there. Nice to have you on board. And Sheldon says, just check old World Radio TV handbooks. Last station listed on 11 meters were in 1994. 4 stations. So there was the United Arab Emirates, Norway, France, and Netherlands. So it gives you an idea. And I think the last station I've heard on that band was France. I think I heard Radio France. So it probably is somewhere around there, kind of early to mid 90s. Early to mid 90s. So, yeah, 25790. I remember that one. I'm happy. That QSL for me is special because it's really, the only QSL I've got are stationed on the 11-meter band, basically. So, really, what else do we have here? What else do we have here? Yeah, the 11-meter band. Anybody have a suggestion for 3830 Radio Man, a good HF preamp? Yeah, I know MFJ makes some. Radio Obvious says they're kind of okay. So I know that MFJ made some. I remember seeing pre-selectors and preamps from MFJ, there's a Kilo 4 station trying to contact probably that Halifax station. But absolutely, that's I totally agree with Radio Obvious. Most radios are, the amplification is good enough that you don't need. Hey man. Now that's a cute picture of a cute little cat. So Radioactive says holding at 7.8 degrees in Oregon. Here it's plus 3 Celsius. So pretty cool. So hey, you're listening to the Shortwave Radio Show. We're now an hour and a half into the show. We're almost at 199 people watching right now. So it's that Saturday show where we talk about radio. We check out different signals. So I want to talk a little bit about digital modes. Some people said, hey, what are some of the most common digital modes in the software to decode them? Once again, I think the two pieces of software that are the most popular, the most interesting for decoding signals, FLDG, and the other one is the multi-PSK. Multi-PSK is another one. Multi-PSK is amazing for the number of modes that it decodes. It has one major flaw, a very, very crappy interface. But it is something you need if you want to decode, if you're serious about decoding. So I can show you guys. This is FLDG. So that one decodes different modes, a lot of modes. It does decode a lot of modes. Some of them like PSK, MFSK, Olivia, and so on, can decode weather facts. The other one, multi-PSK, also decodes a lot of modes. It decodes modes that the FLDG cannot, but it has a little clunky interface that makes it a little difficult to kind of go through. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like if you can see it on the screen. But both of them are essential if you want to decode digital modes. Both of them do well in general, whatever. So here's the so this one is the multi-PSK one. So it has all the clunky modes on the upper right corner, and that's the biggest problem. So Radioactive says one can never mention multi-PSK without mentioning the graphical user interface. Yeah, absolutely. Radio Hobbyist uses DM780 free version. So there are some interesting stuff. There are some specifics. So for example, somebody in some of these questions, one of the things that they were asking is, for SSTV, slow scan TV, what do you use? Well, I use, that's what you were seeing before. I used SSTV. And SSTV is great. It's an automatic decode of slow scan TV, and works really, really well. Hurricane, nice to have you here. Thank you very much for subscribing. And it's nice to have everybody here. It's cool to have people, it's really cool to have people from around the world as we do some radio stuff. And welcome, welcome. Is the gooey? So just a little reminder, if you want to help me out, patreon.com/radio and computers for a little donation. This is a place where you can join 10 other patrons that are helping me out every month with a little something. The best you can also use is PayPal. There's paypal.me/shortwave. If that doesn't work, and some people say the link sometimes doesn't work for some people, I don't know why, you can also use my Yahoo email to send me a little something through PayPal. It is much appreciated and really helps me tremendously in continuing on doing the live shows. And I take a lot of time doing these shows, so if you can spare a little something. In a couple of weeks, I'll be checking out another donation thing about giving a part of the donation to some good effort for shortwave radio. Probably was thinking of maybe sending a little something to Glenn Hauser for his hard work with the World of Radio show. Sheldon says, just found out that Radio France used 11 meters again for a few years later, ending in 2004 on 25820. Well, that's kind of interesting. And I remember that's what I remember receiving Radio France on 25820. I think they were broadcasting to Africa back then. If I'm not mistaken, that was the transmission for Africa or something like that. And I remember receiving that a little bit. But really, definitely the strongest signal I've had in the 11-meter band. Okay, so it doesn't work when the WW is in the, okay, let's try it like this, let's see. So just paypal.me/shortwave, no W's. But anyways, so thanks for everybody that donated, it's much appreciated. Montreal DX here says, I think there's a station in Russia that uses 25900. It is from a Moscow university, from what I know. Received it during a propagation opening some years back. Because here, when I look at, okay, I'm going to bring up the EIBI space schedule. And if I look at the latest schedules in the lists and go to the end of the list, so there's a lot of studio to transmitter links. Well, that's one I should check out. There's a utility, Roma Radio IAR, which is, I believe, Volmet or something. 26172, 24 hours a day. Huh. 27185. There's something called, it's from Russia, IRIT Weather Radio. Okay. Huh. Kind of interesting. But there's no international broadcasters using the band anymore. So, kind of interesting. Huh. I should, when the propagation opens up, I should tune around that band a little bit. You never know what you can hear. There's a lot. So you see here, what I hear mostly, what are mentioned here, studio to link transmitters. One that I don't hear anymore, so I'm not sure it's still on, but I heard a lot in the past. 25870 WFLA in Tampa, Florida. 25910, that's the one I hear all the time here, which is KLDE in El Dorado, Texas. I hear that one all the time when propagation opens up. The other one I hear a lot is 25990, and it's the same, KLDE in El Dorado, Texas. Now these are in FM mode in their studio to link transmitters. I heard that quite a few times in the past. So David in Barcelona, nice to have you on board. Yeah, it was a shorter show yesterday because I had I had to meet friends. So the show yesterday was about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So nice to have everybody here, by the way. So yeah, to click them, you got to, I would have had to put the link directly. Sheldon says 25820 was used by France from 12 to 13 UT to Africa in 2004. 30 minutes in English, 30 minutes in French. I believe that's what I was hearing. I remember it was early morning here. So, you know, 12 UTC is, in the summertime would be 8 a.m. So that is probably when I heard them, either in the summertime or if it was in the wintertime, 7 a.m., even earlier. So Jill just found out that 25900 in Russia from Moscow Technical University. They play music and interviews. Huh, that's kind of interesting. So if I do paypal.me/shortwave here, I'm just gonna post the link directly. There we go. So this is how it shows up when I actually get on to. So the clickable link would be like this. Oh man, I hate it when it does that. I don't know why the chat room sometimes stops responding when I only happens in Firefox. It doesn't happen in any other browser. So here we are back here. So here's the link. That should be a clickable link here. So cool. Philip Briggs, nice to have you on board from Brazil. Sheldon says, fun looking through the old World Radio TV handbook. Yeah, I've got one here. The other one I've got here is 2001. It's the oldest WRTH that I've got. The 2001. I'm happy to have picked up the when I met you at the Hamfest. I'm really happy to have picked up the latest version of World Radio TV handbook. It's kind of cool to have it in handy. There's a lot of information in here that's very difficult to find. So I'm glad to have, you know, I got the 2017 now. I think the last one I had purchased was 2012. I think 2012 is the last one. So, yes, Bobby, absolutely. Thanks for the donation. Much appreciated. ACDC on 6925. Let's check out if I can hear some pirate here. I'm hearing nothing. I'm going to try the 4 megahertz one. There's sometimes pirates on... Nope, no pirates right now. No pirates right now. So, what you could do, Steve, just go to paypal.com. If you want to give a donation from PayPal, just go to paypal.com on your computer and just send it to the Yahoo email that I've posted. That will work. For some people, unfortunately, it doesn't work. I don't know why. Max Edstrong, nay, nice to have you on board. Philip Briggs says 27025 Southern US CBs. By the accent, skipping into Southern Brazil. So, you know, there must be some sporadic e-skip. Let's just check it out by curiosity. You never know when something can propagate. So it's very quiet here. Nothing. Nothing at all. I'll leave it there a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to show up. Sheldon, another peep here on 6925. Yep, here neither. Nothing at all. No, it's okay, Steve. But for some reason, some people it doesn't work, and I don't know why, Steve. It's very, very weird. It's as if sometimes, depending on the browser or whatever. But just go to paypal.com and send it to the Yahoo email. It's gonna work. I believe Sheldon has a long wire antenna, right? Long wires in the back, yeah, with the Kenwood R5000 receiver. So pretty cool. Hey Golden, nice to have you here. Yeah, everybody's pretty much using the YouTube chat. You're totally right on that. Since we've moved to this new YouTube live stuff. It's pretty much all. Everybody has moved to that. You know, it's kind of the easy way to get into the chat. You know, the only thing is you need a Gmail, but it's the easy way to really chat now. So everybody has moved pretty much to the YouTube chat now. But I still, you know, I like keeping the IRC chat open because there are some people on the IRC only. So at least, you know, I can see everybody. But it sure has changed a lot in the... There's one thing I do like better about the chat from the YouTube Live is that for the trolls, it is way, way easier here to have moderation. You know, I gave moderation status to a lot of people, so you know it's easy to now when it's easy to post the you know, to have somebody remove the trolls from the chat. Mellow Yellow says YouTube chat crashes. It doesn't crash here. It doesn't crash on me at all. and I've not really heard anybody saying that the YouTube chat crashed on them much. The only thing I have here as an issue is if I want to use the sometimes I want to post something in the chats in Firefox. Sometimes I have to close and reopen the window with the chat before I post, but it only happens with Firefox. Apart from that, I have no issues at all with the chat crashing or anything. So yeah, most discounts usually are more of 25 to 1300. Absolutely. 11330. Anything there? I believe it's isn't that a aeronautical band? I think there's some aeronautical communications on that frequency range. For sure. Andrea DXer says, yes, I moved completely away from IRC chat. My old name there was Mute Zone. Yeah, most people have moved from the IRC to the, you know. And it works really well with the YouTube chat. Honestly, I find it really, really easy. And for most people, it's easier, you know, because the IRC chat, you need to know how to get there and how to set it up. Which is not a problem with the YouTube chat, which just works in the browser. So, what else do we have here? Jill, if you just click on the chat, then in the type box it works. Yeah, but for some reason mine kind of stops for some reason. I don't know why. It only happens with Firefox. So I just, you know, restart the chat if I can't, you know, because I don't post a lot. Honestly, I don't really post a lot. For a simple reason is that I talk, you know, I answer your questions verbally, so I don't need to, you know, to really to type usually, but sometimes I go to and want to type in the chat and it just stops. So thanks guys for the donations. I see them rolling in. So I don't know. Jill, you need a fin du monde, maudit. Yeah, I got no beer, so I can't. I'm almost done on my water. But I gotta say, you know what? I actually feel a little better, and now I totally wish I had a beer. Hey, Maglone. Yeah, well, the reason I'm using Firefox is because in this Linux version is the only decent browser that I can have work correctly. But because usually I'm in Chrome. Well, it depends. Usually I'm in Chrome if I'm in a machine that is you know, Linux or something like that. But if I'm on Windows 10, I usually use Microsoft Edge that I kind of like. Jerry says, listening to long wave beacons. I used to DX these. I remember when I had my DX 302, I would be DXing these long wave beacons and really checking out and trying to receive all of these beacons in as far away as possible. I remember receiving the long wave beacons from one for Bermuda. There was another one. There was many U.S. beacons I would receive from quite far away. It was, you know, the noise level was so low back then compared to today. I can't DX the long wave bands anymore. So it's kind of interesting. Josh Evangelo, how do you bring long wire inside without a 9-1 transformer to coax? Usually what I do is I, you know, I just plug the wire directly to the center connector and put the braid to some kind of ground, a possible ground. But now, right now, I have a 9-1 Unknown, basically. Yeah, that probably would be what I need to do, but I would need to be there at night mostly because long wave will propagate much better at night, David. And long wave does kind of require a good. You know what? I've never done any medium wave or long wave tuning around at Perry Island. You're giving me an idea here. I don't know why it never crossed my mind. I was always focused on the shortwave bands. But now Perry Island is going to be a few months away. It's getting a little too cold. You know, I say it's getting a little too cold, but I gotta say one thing. You know, with a good coat and everything, I can tell you I could probably go there and do some a little, maybe you know, before the snow sets in, because there's no snow on the ground right now. Maybe I could that could be interesting. I'll look at the weather this week, and if I can have a day that it's decent, you know, a little bit above zero. I've never really done a Perry Island December, and you know, with a good coat and everything, I think I could be fine, and you know. But Radioactive says 5 minutes to fax from Japan on 16969.1. I'll try it, but I don't think I'll hear that, especially at this time of year. These higher frequencies usually are less not propagating as well. So I'm just gonna take this wire here. What accounts for the increased long wave noise? Well, it's the general noise, basically. You know, as we had more and more electronic devices around us, that has increased the noise level around us on long wave. And you know, all the technologies used today and everything, the first frequencies, and you know, to the frequencies that are hit, the first are the lower frequencies for the noise. You know, generally what you see is when you look at the noise from all the electronic stuff, the higher in frequency you go, the less you see that as it has effects on the frequency you're listening. So as the crappy electronics that were put into the devices we use every day, plus all the new technologies, you know, the power lines, there's the you know, DSL on the phone lines and stuff like that, the general noise level has steadily increased over the years. So David Arden says, I can put up 500 feet of wire for long wave. Wow, that's not bad. Can I go to Perry Island in the winter on a nice day? Yeah, I could. It's just, you know, it's just you know, the snow. Usually, you know, it's just getting there by the snow, because sometimes, you know. Hey, 73 Radio Obvious, was nice to have you on board. So, well, most computers that are well done. You know, I got my Toshiba computers here that are very, very low noise. It's not just an Apple thing. You know, Apple products, a lot of them are noisy. There are some, you know, iPads buzz their way on the shortwave bands a lot, I can tell you that. But you know, all brands have their, you know, good laptops and good PCs that have very little. So Matt Brader the Acer says, Joel, one thing I was thinking about the rise in RF noise is products coming straight from China, not tested in the country. They are received in by the relevant authorities, therefore having flaws. Yes, that there's absolutely, you know, a lot of noise from the crappy Chinese stuff. That is definite. Like I was saying yesterday, you know, the Acer computer I've got here, the power supply with it is probably a crappy, generic Chinese power supply. And that thing is a noise machine. It's actually a noise broadcasting machine. It's crazy. And you're totally right. A lot of the cheap Chinese stuff that doesn't have many, you know, hasn't been really tested or anything, that doesn't help at all. So you know, there's a lot of crappy stuff for the noise coming from China. That's for sure. Daxfar is listening to something on 15910. Anyone receive this weather radio? 15910. Is there anything listed here on the EIBI space, just out of curiosity? On 15910. Anybody receiving that? 15910 doesn't bring out anything in the EIBI space. So there's nothing listed there officially. Closest thing is 15920, Voice of Hope from Taiwan. Mark H, what do you think of the Yaesu 857D, which I believe is a transceiver? And pretty much everything from Yaesu is pretty good. Anybody uses one? Anybody has an idea of what you like? What do you think of the Yaesu 857D? Philip Briggs says, with computers, is it the actual computer or power supply that causes most of the noise on HF? A mix of all of that, because the computer itself can actually create noise. And you know, there's a lot of oscillators inside computers, so of course all of that is, they're kind of like mini transmitters. So it can come from, you know, the computer itself, from the display, but a lot of the noise is often from the power supply, because they are switching power supplies. A lot of them are very noisy. So you know, most of the time a good power supply will eliminate the noise you got from the PC, a lot of times. But the PC itself can be noisy. I've seen some PCs that the actual PC is noisy itself. I remember once buying a graphics card, a GPU for my gaming machine I had, and my PC typically didn't make very little noise. And when I had changed my graphics card in it, it actually started being super noisy. And it was like, oh man, the graphics adapter is actually creating all the noise. This is crazy. And I remember, I think I think I used it 2 days. Took it out, put it back in the box, went back to the computer store and said to the guy, hey, I'll exchange that with another one. And I remember he asked me, oh, why, you don't like the performance? I said, well, it's a little more complicated than that. I'd rather have something else. You know, don't try to explain to a computer guy at the store, well, I have a lot of noise on my shortwave radio because of this graphics card. He's just not going to understand what you mean. Vianney Arsenault, bonjour, welcome. Nice to have you on board from the eastern part of Quebec. David Arden's got a 857D and he loves it. Pretty cool. David says he was listening to the astronauts aboard the International Space Station. Oh, by the way, now that you're mentioning that, Friday, don't forget the Friday show this week, this coming Friday at 2000 hours UTC, will be a satellite listening show. We'll track some satellites, some amateur satellites. Lots of new satellites in orbit that are very, very cool. Hopefully we'll have a few passes of some of those, and we'll be able to listen in on some of the voice communications and single sideband on the 2 meter band. So this coming Friday, 2000 hours UTC, instead of the shortwave topic, it's going to be amateur radio satellites. We'll be tuning around, looking at the different satellites, and talking about the different modes used by different satellites. So satellite show coming this Friday. Jerry says, I had a bad power supply with my Texan PL680. Emailed the seller and he sent me a new one and worked fine. So cool. I never plug in my portable receivers. I always use them on battery, because using the receivers for DXing, usually when I plug it in, it gets a little more noise in general. Brett Wayne says, got a 857D, good radio, uses it in his truck. Hey Sheldon, take care, have a good weekend also. Au revoir, bye. Yeah, I would guess it's the equivalent of the bonjour, hi. Take care and have a great weekend, Sheldon. Josh Evangelo, can you eliminate noise by wrapping electronics with some material? Yeah, well, technically, you probably could isolate the noise a little, you know, with some form of, you know, like wrapping it in some kind of, you know, maybe aluminum foil or something. But the problem is, most of these devices need to, you really need to, you know, have a flowing of air to make sure that it actually, you know, keeps cool. And unfortunately, there's a lot of electronics also that, even if you do that, even if you would put that device in a metal box to isolate it so that it doesn't, the noise from it doesn't propagate outside, one of the biggest issues that happens a lot is the power cords that you use. So when you plug in the power cord, well, that power cord acts as an antenna and actually broadcasts some of that noise. So it's very, very difficult. You can, yes, by doing a lot of, you know, of tweaking, probably, yes, wrapping, you know, in cables and everything. Southern Illinois Sand, what is the best way to keep your radios clean? And what do I do if I spill Coke on my radios? Well, okay, the first thing that you need to do if you spill anything, any liquids, liquids are the enemies of electronics, first of all. You got to make sure that you remove the batteries, remove all the power as soon as possible, because electronics can withstand some water, but not if it's powered, because that will create short circuits. That will damage the radios. So you remove the batteries and you remove the power source as soon as you can. The second thing is, the best way to clean a radio in general will always be, you know, a damp cloth. So you'll pour a little water. It's very, very difficult to use any types of, you know, cleaners of some sort, because the plastic, you know, often can change because of, you know, chemicals. And so water is probably the best that you can use on your radio. So you know, take a damp cloth and you just, you know, clean it with water. That's what I do here. So you say that your radios always look nice when you use them. Well, I simply, you know, put some water in a paper. Most of the time what I do is I put a little bit of water on a paper towel and I clean the outside of the radios, you know, the best I can. If you spill things like Coke, what's the biggest problem is that Coke, being sugary, you know, it can make your buttons stick. and that's a little more difficult. But technically, water works fine, and water removes any sugary liquids like Coke really easily. So that's what you could do. But usually, because let's face it, when I do the videos, I don't want it. It does happen sometimes that my radio can be a little dirty, and when I do videos, well, of course, I want to try to have the radio looking nice. So often, what I'll do simply is a little bit of water on a paper towel and just clean, just go around the radio, and it usually is more than enough. I don't really use anything else than just water to keep them clean, basically. And yes, anybody that wants to be there tomorrow, please catch the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3. And of course, you can go to ckut.ca to listen live or to listen to the recorded show. It is great listening. It's part of my Sunday morning routine here. Usually pick a radio. It's funny because the International Radio Report, I usually will take a look at my radios and say, I haven't used that one in a while, so I'll take that to listen to the International Radio Report today. So it's kind of funny. David in Barcelona says, okay, cool, Gilles. I've been paying attention to Fox 1B and or AO91, just launched a couple of weeks ago, I think, and works pretty well. No problem hearing it with the ICR5 and rubber ducky, so pretty cool. I've actually also a series of satellites that I've really had a lot of fun with is the they're like they have a different letter. It's like 2A, 2B, 2C, 2 whatever. And they all have a single sideband repeater, which is really, really cool because it's easy to listen to, even with like my ICOM ICR20, just that I could actually listen to amateur stations calling. The only problem is on weekdays, I've noticed that a lot of the passes, there seems to be nobody on. And they seem to be much more popular in the weekends. Miguel Maj says, Radio Aparecida, 11855 from Brazil. Let's check that out. Can I hear it? It's a little off frequency. It's like 11854.8 or something. It's very, very weak. For me, it's in the noise. And Radio Nacional Amazonas seems to be off the air at this time. They're shutting down earlier than before. I wonder if Brazil, Radio Nacional Amazonas, will come back to the regular schedules that they have. They were, received here all evening. Matt Edstrong is using a Kenwood 850. Golden Klinger, nice to have you here from Toronto. I find I get less RF interference from notebook computers, especially those aluminum Apple ones. Over the years, because I use almost only laptops, most laptops that I've used over the years are much less problematic with noise than desktops. Desktop seems to be the worst in noise creation, but when you get a laptop, like here I got two Toshibas in front of me, they have very low noise emission. I can't, when I turn them on, I don't see any difference in my radios. So they are very, very so a lot of David Arden says baby wipes also work well for cleaning babies. Yeah, you clean your little baby radios. MDK2 says I've got 11855 week. Cool. Jerry says I might listen to satellites tonight. MDK2 says RNA Radio Nacional Amazonas 11780 went off just before 22. I hope they I hope they are going to extend the schedule, because you know, before they would be all evening Radio Nacional Amazonas. Now they stop at 2200, and I actually like the evenings because they had some beautiful Brazilian music, and it was kind of a fun listen. Bobby says 6925 Upper Sideman about to sign off. Let's try it out just to see if I hear anything. Oh yeah, I hear something. No, I don't. Yeah, there is something there. There's definitely something on 6925. I can hear a little something in the background, but it's very weak. Very weak. Daxfar, no, the satellites we listen to are amateur satellites, so they're they're in the 2 meter and 70 centimeter VHF or UHF frequency ranges, which is pretty every scanner can receive. We're not going into the gigahertz ones. Steve, talking about XW2A, B, C, F sats. Yes, absolutely. And they are fun because the single sideband repeater is really amazingly good. So yeah, they're Chinese ones, XW2A to 2D, and they go to F. You know, there's like the F or something. They're pretty cool. Basically, you sit and wait for them, and then they come one after the other. That's the fun thing too, because one of the things that I hate about satellites is one of the fun thing about satellites is well, that's a little sad, is, you know, you wait for a pass, it lasts 15 minutes, and then you gotta wait for the next one, and you know, 15 minutes is a short time to like receive the amateurs that make contacts, but but these ones are cool because they all follow one after the other. So you get that, and typically, you know, 20 minutes later you've got another one, and 20 minutes later you got another one, and it's really cool for that because it gives you a longer period of time when you listen to these signals from the satellites, which is very nice. Hopefully we'll hear them when I do the show. I don't know if the schedules will give me passes, but hopefully. MDK2 says, yeah, I hope Radio Nacional Amazon comes back to a 24-hour schedule. I'm encouraged that I can get their current broadcast, but hearing them in the day isn't a year-round thing for me. Yeah, here too, in the daytime they're usually very weak. Here too, up here in Montreal. Bobby says, more songs than CW and SSTV and then off. Huh. So, yeah, no, these are amateur satellites, Dax Farher. They're really fun to listen to, and it's cool because some of them are, you can use a regular handheld scanner will work. There's one like I think it's SO50. That's an FM repeater. That one you can almost get with just a little scanner, but they are really cool. Ethan Best says, I sure miss RNA's strong signals. Yeah, they were really strong. In the evening, they were always packing a really good signal up here in the Montreal. Even in the winter time, when, you know, there was like nothing on the band, you'd go on 11780 and sure thing you'd have, you know, Brazil there. 6180 also. Andrew the Extra says, oh, the XW2A sats might explain the 2 North American hams I received here in the UK some time ago on the 2 meter band. Yeah, and you know what? They are higher up in orbit a little bit, which means that their tracking on the ground is bigger. Much bigger than a lot of the satellites that were there. So it's really cool because when they actually cross the Atlantic, well, yes, you can actually have the east coast of North America and the Western Europe in the same trace doing contacts, which is very, very nice. Manuel Corin, nice to have you here, and thanks for the nice comments. Pujo Jojo, nice to have you on board. Brett Wayne's receiving lots of slow scan TV on 14230. Let's try it out again, just to see if by any chance. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm gonna get SSTV back. And we're gonna try to decode something here for sure. Look at that, guys. I'm probably at the end, unfortunately, but decoding some slow scan TV right now. So, oh yeah, Pujo Jojo, I will reply with my my full postal address. Sorry for the, I did see your, thanks for the card, by the way, the e-card. But I will, I'll send you my postal address if you want to send me a, hey, there's another SSTV here, very weak. So it's kind of nice, and this one's in the noise now. I'll try to get some decode of something. So I'll be sending you my full postal address, no problem. Manuel DXer says Satcom also continues to receive on the 250 megahertz, but a lot of pirates from Brazil use it. Can receive them pretty much 24/7. Yeah, I hear a few here, but I hear they're very weak. I don't have the good antenna for that. You know, mine is a vertical antenna, so the problem is that, you know, I don't receive well what's really straight up. I tend to hear much more what's, you know, horizontal. Thanks, Emmanuel. Well, you know, the channel here is built around the fact that I want to try to help everyone, and you know, I think one of the things, you know, there are a lot of YouTube channels that deal with radio. I kind of wanted to focus on a little more the newbie, if you're a beginner, you know, and leave the much more and the heavier technical stuff to others that explain it very well. So, you know, I try to focus as much as possible on making sure that somebody that doesn't, you know, just begins in the shortwave hobby can easily understand and you know, enjoy radio. So this one was a lot. That's very noisy. I can see that there's some people there, but it's a very noisy one. Really interesting. I'm gonna leave it there. Maybe there's gonna be one that's strong enough that's gonna give me a really clean decode. I only use vertical antenna of my scanner, but outdoors in a field to receive SATCOM. Antennas in a fixed position can be hit or miss with SATCOM, so better go boardable. I'll try that. I'm going to go to the park someday and I'll bring my ICOM and CR20 and see if I can get something. Maybe I'll be able to get it with that. I'll check that out for sure. So signals are good with the antenna of the scanner. Oh, this one's strong. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. So this is slow scan TV, SSTV. Thanks, Steve. I hope I do a good job. So K5JRW VE3YCO. That's a very clean decode of a slow scan TV picture. I think it's one of the first times we actually have SSTV decoding live. A little bit of noise, but let's hope it's old D signal. This is nice. This is always a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, the funniest thing, Steve, is exactly that. Casey Red Dragon always asks, hey, can you tune some SSTV? Can you tune some Slow Scan TV? And now, we've got Slow Scan TV, he's not here. Hey, Rob Webster, nice to have you on board. No need to be sorry when you're late. I do understand that people have other things to do with their lives than just listen to me. So, so we are decoding some Slow Scan TV. Nice decode. There's a little bit of noise going through, but we get the drift of the slow scan. And we're actually going to make it bigger so you guys can see it a little more. So look at that, guys. This is the picture just decoded. A dinosaur running after a guy. K5JRW. That was a very, very nice to decode. Oh, I didn't know that you would decode in real time. Even on the big window. Well, I'll leave it like that. It's kind of cool. So really, really nice to see some Slow Scan TV here. Hey, Ivan, nice to have you on board. Says, if anyone interested, I did a YouTube comparison of the SDR RSP and the new RSP1A. So, yeah, please share, Ivan. Share the link. Don't be shy. Nice to have you on board, Ivan. Thomas Taylor, nice to have you here. How are the bands this evening? They seem to be not too bad, actually. Really seem to be not too bad. I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised that I'm actually receiving the 20-meter band signals. You know, more than almost an hour and a half after sunset. So it's not too bad. So, Daxfar74 says, here in Germany we have a clear cold night. Receive lots of stuff. Bobby says, my QSSTV won't decode anything at all. That's, yeah, you know what? Some software seem to have more difficulty decoding than others. Is QSSTV auto mode? Does it detect the mode automatically? Because they all seem to be using Scotty 1. So this is a little pirate, kind of a pirate look, like Pirates of the Caribbean or something, but it has a lot of noise on the signal. I'll leave it there. If there's some more decodes, kind of cool. SG2 Nebraska is sharing the indices. So at 21 UT, solar flux is 72, kind of low, but K index is 1, which is pretty good. So that's weird. Yeah, it looks like Johnny Depp. Oh, we got a new decode coming. It's gonna be interesting to see. A nice decode coming once again. I love it when there's it's been a while since I've been listening to Slow Scan TV like this. It's always really, really cool. SG2 Nebraska says there's a pirate on 6940 upper sideband right now. So anybody wants to try that out, don't worry, no problem, Daxfar. It's we got a lot of people that have you know, just they post the best that they can in English, and we usually get the drift. But this one is a nice picture. K5JRW VE3YCO, and pretty beautiful. Yeah, this one's nice to come. Very little noise in it. Really nice. It's been a long time since I've had fun like this with Slow Scan TV, I gotta say. Really cool. No problem, Ivan. Take care. And take care of that, if your wife's birthday dinner. So it's important. Yeah, absolutely. Jerry says 6940 is S5, where he is. So So I'm just gonna let the decode finish, and we're gonna just try 6940. Your signal is making my sister act funny. That's kind of nice. That's a pretty nice decode, actually. A little bit of noise, but not too bad of a picture, I gotta say. Pretty nice picture here of slow scan decoding. So really nice. Let's just try 6940. I hear it. $6940, there's a pirate, I hear it here too. So there is a pirate station on 6940 kilohertz right now. I got it here also. Cool, take care, Pujo Jojo, and I'll be sending you my postal address so you can send me that QSL by mail. Thanks very much for the offer. It's really appreciate it. It'll be in my my QSL album, proudly, alongside my other QSLs. So really nice to have everybody here. You're watching the Shortwave radio show. We're at 2 hours and 30 minutes right now. We've peaked at 100. We're at 85 right now. Just remember that you can help me out by becoming a patron at patreon.com/radio and computers. You can also help me out with paypal.me/shortwave, or if it doesn't work, you can just go to your PayPal account and send it to the Yahoo email that I am posting right now. And thanks for everyone that have donated during the show. I saw a few donations come in. Much appreciated, helps me continue, and really is helpful in actually continuing our efforts in live shows. John Timkin says, at last I've copied one of the pirates, 6940. It's way down in the noise, but as I'm in the UK, I suppose I can't complain. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. Ethan Best says, Radio Taiwan in Japanese on 9735. Wow. So, yeah, FO29 is one of those satellites that has a lot of possibilities. It's going to be fun. On Friday, we're going to have that satellite show, so I think it's going to be fun. I hope that there's going to be a pass of those satellites, that series of satellites. Brett Wayne 6940 is S7 in Salamanca, New York. KC2 and XP, so it's pretty strong. So yeah, Steve says no pirates for me unless they are Asian. Yeah, I guess there must be some pirates in the Asia Pacific region. We don't really look at that much, but I would guess there must be some for sure. Simon Templar, nice to have you here, Simon. Pretty cool to have you on board. And we had a few SSTV decoding tonight, which is kind of cool, and really a lot of fun. So pirate on 6940. It's in the noise, but it's audible, which means that the signal, you know, technically if I hear it right now and it moves the needle a little bit, so it kind of reaches about S7 here, technically. If I didn't have my noise level that I have, that would be easy to listen to, honestly. So they are automatically saved, David Harden, on SSTV. They're automatically saved. So if you go to the receive, you will see the all the images, and you can actually if I want, I can right click on it, and I believe I can save it as a JPEG in the computer. So I do believe, if I look at it here, so I've got the auto log, and it's a long time since I've done it, but I think that there is a way to save the pictures in JPEG in your PC, so you can keep them if you want, and you can of course transfer them. So I can take one and transfer it here, and so I've got auto history here. So if I go to history, I will see the different ones that I actually received in here, and you can copy and paste these pictures anywhere. So you can actually right click on the picture, copy it, and paste it in another software or a a paint program or whatever, David. So you can keep all of that if you want. You can keep them as JPEGs within your picture folder, for example. And nice to have you here. I think there's somebody I didn't say hi that I just saw somewhere. If I miss out and don't say hi, please say hello again. Manuel Curran says, heard only a Serbian pirate chatting with someone. And sometimes, you know what? There's one of the things that's very, very interesting, and it's pirates. Sometimes you hear pirates talking with each other. It happened a few times. You go into some of the pirate frequencies, and you hear 2 or 3 pirates that are actually chatting together. So, yeah, absolutely. You can put them up in a program and clean them up and of course fix the noise and everything if you want. Absolutely. Does the RF noise increase in the city at Christmas time with all the lights? I've not really noticed an increase in noise from the Christmas decorations, but I have noticed an increase in noise in the winter time, and I think it's more of a relation to the fact that the high demand on electricity means that the electricity, the electricity pole and everything, all the wires that bring the electricity around the neighborhood, create more noise because there's more demand on power. I think it's what I've kind of noticed is more of an increase because of high demand of electricity, more than an increase in. I can't say I've ever seen an increase in noise from the Christmas lights, except one. I have a set of lights here that's that does all sorts of weird patterns, and it has a little control box. When that is set on one specific effect of lights, I actually hear some kind of a buzzing electricity sound in my radio. But apart from that, I can't say that I've ever noticed an increase in noise from Christmas lights. Really, I think it's much more due to the high demand of electricity. Yeah, electric heaters, I would guess, could maybe be a little noisy. I'll hear the general kind of tick-tock sound of when the heating goes on or off, things like that. You hear that little static of the moment, but I think it's more of a problem for high demand of electricity that creates a little more noise around, basically. So Steve says, using the little colored button next to the magnifying glass under the image. Yeah, you can make them bigger. So I can just click and have the picture show up much bigger if you want. So it's really nice. It's nice to have some slow scan TV pictures to decode. SSTV automatically saves all the received SSTV. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's in a subfolder. That's true. In a JPEG form in the history subfolder in its installation directory. So you don't even need to copy or paste them if you want. So yeah, I forgot about that, but I remember seeing that. I haven't gone to that folder in a long time, but they are saved within the history subfolder in the SSTV software. So Wilhelm Helm says, sure enough, from the humidity here, that I can hear the power line crackle from the insulator. You know, it always reminds me where I used to live before. Casey Red Dragon, nice to have you here. You've missed some slow scan TV decoding. You always wanted to have some. We had a few pictures decoded for slow scan TV. So you've missed SSTV. But you know, I would think so. You know, where I used to live before, when there was very humid, I had some crackle from power lines. That's every time it was humid. Every time it would have some rain. 26BT7000 says lots of LED lights creating problems during noise due to switching power supply. You know, the newer lights are probably going to be more problematic, you know, than the old incandescent string of lights. That's why I still buy the good old incandescent bulbs like this, because these don't generate noise. These are just, you know, in series together, so basically they don't make noise. Mike DeVita, is there any detectable HF noise variations during a nuclear test, even if underground? That's a good question. I don't really know you know, what are the effects and what are the noise creation or possibilities of a nuclear explosion. So I don't really know. I really don't know much. MDK2 says, Jill says, someplace very humid, more humid than Montreal. That was one of the most humid cities I've ever visited. Yeah, you know, Montreal is an island. We're surrounded by rivers, so of course it is very humid. And in the summertime, and even in the wintertime, we often have very humid times. Absolutely, Montreal is a good example of a very humid city. And so in the summertime, it creates, you know, when it's very hot, it's kind of not fun because it's too humid. And in the wintertime, it's you know, creating that coolness, so it's kind of cold. It feels colder because it's of all the high humidity sometimes. Sometimes it's just going to be 0 degrees, which is, you know, for a Montrealer, 0 degrees is nothing. But you'll feel much colder just because it's humid. Uh, 26BT7000 says, as being a ham, I don't have a lot of switching power adapters. And if I had them, I swapped them. Yeah, I tend to do a lot of that also. I try to have as little of those as possible because they are very, very bad for shortwave radio listening. Absolutely. So, hey guys, I'm going to call it off for today. We've been on for 2 hours 43. I am hungry, and I'm going to go make myself a little something. I bought everything needed to do a little a lasagna, so I will be doing that and eating that tonight, and possibly doing a little more shortwave radio listening for the evening, and then later on I'll be maybe going on Netflix and watching some movies. So I want to thank you everybody for joining us. Remember that the next show is Friday, 2000 hours UTC. We will be tuning satellites, amateur radio satellites. So Kitty is going well, Mike DeVita. And so I want to thank everybody for being here. It's always nice to have all of you on board. See you Friday, 2000 hours UTC. The next Saturday show will be on the weekend. The next Saturday show is December 16th. Then we'll have one on December 30th. I am looking into a Christmas show, but I don't know exactly when I will be doing that. But I'm looking into some kind of a special Christmas shortwave radio show. So I'll be giving details of all of that when I know when I'm going to do it. So see you next Friday. Y'all have a beer next Friday. Take care, everybody. It was nice to have you on board. Stay safe, please. Always fun to have everybody on board. And see you Friday. Take care, everyone.